first time I played this game, I was really like, WTF, and put it down because it didn't immediately click.
Rogue Games put the call out to find their next big game, and indie developers around the world answered. There are 5 different categories and 5 chances to win. But before they can get the glory, they'll have to impress Rogue's hand-picked industry heavyweights, aka our judges.
Now, that's the piece for me that certainly was missing in the demo.
Who will take their idea to the next level and go rogue? It's anyone's game.
Because after I played it, I kept thinking about it, thinking about what the hell I just did.
This episode, we tackle the wildest of the weird with our What the F category. It's up to our illustrious panel to determine which of these WTF games makes the grade and snatches the cash, $100,000 to be exact. It's all about uniqueness and innovation today. Let's make it weird. This is Rogue Jam. Welcome to Rogue Jam. Rogue Games is dedicated to putting great indie titles in the hands of players, and now they're on the lookout to discover their next big game, and you get to catch every minute of it. With gigantic cash prizes, as well as a Rogue publishing deal, there is a ton up for grabs. So, we assembled a team of industry experts to help decide which games will win it all and which games won't. Ladies and gentlemen, here's our panel of judges. The Senior Vice President of Digital Publishing at Warner Brothers Games, Kimberly Porter-Corbett, deals with the gaming side of billion-dollar properties like Batman, Mortal Kombat, and Game of Thrones. Next up is Chris Archer. He's helped put dozens of games out into the world and is now acting as Rogue's Chief Strategy Officer. A co-founder of IGN, Matt Casamassina, has since launched the games editorial team for Apple's App Store and founded Rogue Games, where he now acts as CEO. As one of IGN's co-founders, Per Schneider has been there since day one and currently acts as Executive Vice President and Chief Content Officer. After working on games like Halo, Age of Empires, and Need for Speed, and co-founding In-Mass Entertainment, Christopher Lee is now the GM for Xbox's publisher strategy and marketing team. And finally, Reggie Fils-Aimé was the face of Nintendo for over a decade, overseeing the launches of multiple industry-changing consoles and handhelds, and countless beloved video games. Reggie appeared in a lot of Nintendo Directs, some of which got pretty silly.
Damon, sorry.
Oh, sorry.
I picked up this great book. Have you heard of it? Disrupting the Game. You should pick it up.
Well, looking sharp both in print and IRL. Today's category is What the F, and we say it with love. Great video games are often pretty WTF. Before we show off our submissions, let's hear from the judges. Matt, you're the CEO of Rogue Games. How do WTF games play into Rogue Games' mission statement?
Yeah, pretty strongly I'd say, they have this built-in virality when they're done right. And so if you look at games like I Am Bread or Untitled Goose Game, these are games that can find an audience just, I think initially anyway, for being weird, right? And then of course they have to be good on top of that.
Kimberly, from a publishing perspective, is a game being unusual a deal breaker or a moneymaker?
When they hit big, right? So you've got, cases of like Angry Birds and some things that are just massive that make no sense. So it's a fine line between a catastrophic failure and a really big hit. So it depends.
All right, well, let's get things started. Here come the submissions for WTF, brought to you by AWS Game Tech. Let the weirdness commence.
Hello, and thank you for having me today. The name of my game is Live or Die. A Twitch streamer has poked the wrong bear and is now paying for the crime. He has to try and survive some twisted puzzles that a game master that he called out on a stream set up for him.
Can you see the notebook that's here? I've always been interested in creating stuff. The name of the game I'm developing is Zapling Bygone. It is a 2D pixel art Metroidvania. Oh, Hughes! You play as a alien hive mind who is looking for a cure to an illness that was created from within.
I have been making games since 2011, working 5 different game companies in the last 10 years. The name of my game is Mr. Nosy. There's a guy who has a big nose, and it gets even bigger for some reason. So he has to use his biggest asset, which is his nose, to solve the problem of him not having enough space. Every space just feels so tight for this guy.
Every game I saw, I thought, can I be the coder of a game? Can I be the musician? Anything to get my name on the credits. The name of my game is Genocide Dolphins, and the reason why will become clear soon. The gameplay of the game is similar to something like Grand Theft Auto. You go around the city, meeting people, working your way through the story, but also doing side missions and jobs.
Giant creature fights with the calm, relaxing nature of fishing. The game starts out and you're fishing for these small creatures, and then as you go, you ramp up to bigger and bigger fish, to the point where now the fish are pulling you around and you have to be more reactive with your fishing style.
The name of the game that I'm working on is called Spaceboat. Spaceboat's story is actually pretty big, but at the core, you are a space cat. In this universe of fuzzy carpet-based life forms, there's an intergalactic jewel thief that steals something very precious, and you're sent in to find them.
Growing up, I really wanted to write my own stories. The name of our game is By the Space Station. It's all about hacking, slashing, and pulverizing hordes of creatures in this 1 to 4 player co-op third-person action game.
Our game is called The Ballad of Sir Gatling. Each level is a boss rush against a different giant monster. These bosses have powerful attacks, and they can also summon hordes of minions to help them. Your goal is to break down their defenses and push them back to the end of the bridge.
The reason I think my game should be selected is because I've spent 10 years of my life developing it. I want to see them down the pub going, "Oh, have you played this game yet? It's going to be amazing. You've got to get it, man."
I want to create games because it's one of the few things that makes me happy, gives me a purpose.
I make games because it makes time go faster or time change. That's what got me into game dev, and that's what I hope people will enjoy when they play my game.
I am a person who is physically disabled. At the end of the day, I have my natural obstacles in life. I think game creation is just a giant obstacle course in general.
I create games because I like creating situations where other people get to have fun and enjoy themselves. For me, that's video games.
All right, well, the judges have all cast votes for their individual favorites. We've tallied these up and selected 3 finalists that will go on to the next round. But first, we want to spotlight a rogue standout presented by Galaxy Racer. Matt, why don't you tell us about a game that didn't quite make the cut, but still deserves the most honorable of mentions?
Yeah, so there's a game called Invader Simulator, which, I mean, it's almost, I don't even know how to describe the damn thing. It's like this, you're a robot who's going to an alien world to colonize it, but the entire game is a psychedelic mind. You have no idea what's happening half the time. The technology behind it is really good, and so is the soundtrack, but we just don't even know where to begin with it. So it's something I do want to take a look at a little bit later down the line, but we're just not ready for this one yet.
Well, with a description like that, how could it not rise to the top? Here's a closer look at our first game. If you've ever wanted a combination of medieval chivalry and multi-barreled automatic weapons, this might be for you. Here is The Ballad of Sir Gatling.
Hey, I'm Reese from Effort Star Games. You might remember me from episode 1, but I'm back, and this time it's with a different game called The Ballad of Sir Gatling. The Ballad of Sir Gatling is an FPS where you fight against giant monsters and hordes of minions. You're a knight who has a shield and a Gatling gun, and you have to use them in interesting ways to move around the level and cut heads off and blast monsters. It's got this whole system of like chaining moves to play to make different attacks, kind of like a fighting game, and that was an entirely new thing for us. Another big thing is that The Ballad of Sir Gatling is the first game I've made where I did all the art. So we wanted to have that like kind of silly, anything goes fantasy aesthetic with like kind of cute cartoonish graphics. It's silly, it's fun, it's lighthearted, it doesn't take itself seriously. I mean, having won round 1 and having another shot, to be honest, I thought that Sir Gatling was going to be a really strong entry for WTF, but having seen some of the competition, I'm wondering if we've got it. I also don't know if the judges want to pick me again, but I guess I'm here, so I'll leave it up to them.
Let's talk to Reese Vanderwarden again. Reese, welcome back.
Thank you very much.
Okay, Reese, you know the drill. The judges have already gotten their mitts on The Ballad of Sir Gatling, and if I know them, they have some feedback and questions for you. Right, judges? Let's start with Reggie.
Well, Reese, great to see you again. In this game, you made a number of really interesting choices, right? The art style was an interesting choice. This being essentially on rails is another interesting choice. Talk to me about some of those choices and how you thought about it, especially in the context of creating a game that you want people to play.
Yeah, sure. So there are 2 answers to that question because there's 2 people on the team. So for me personally, I wanted to explore how we could take some bullet hell shoot 'em up mechanics and translate them into first person. So that's where you get this like straight bridge, the on rails thing you mentioned. It's meant to evoke the moving up the screen and just always moving forward, shooting enemies coming down towards you that you'd see in the bullet hell game. But for Ned, he wanted to explore more defensive mechanics in first person shooters. So in a lot of FPS games, you'll have force damage and you either have like a health regen system or a cover system to mitigate that. But his idea was to have these defensive moves you could make and offensive moves, and you just flow between them as you move through the battle.
First time I played this game, I was really like, WTF, and put it down because it didn't immediately click. First time I played this game, I was really like, WTF, and put it down because it didn't immediately click. And then when I went back later and really stuck it out and understood how the offense and the defense worked and kind of meshed together, then I was like, oh, I get it, this is super cool. So my advice to you would be having that first-time user experience really explain to players exactly how these mechanics work together and benefit the player in the end.
I actually have a question about the theme because it is very WTF. What inspired you to put these things together? Because it's crazy.
We wanted to just make a really silly theme. Like, we like the idea of being like a big, heavy character who also has a Gatling gun, and we thought, let's make it a knight. And it's already absurd, right? You've got a gun in a medieval kind of setting. So we thought, let's just take that to the extreme. Let's just throw as much funny, creative stuff as we can into the game and see what comes out.
That said, I'm curious about, the things that we haven't seen yet. Have you thought about any other gameplay elements or maybe HUD displays that we're not seeing in the game? Like, one thing that struck me was that it would be helpful to have a damage counter that's visible so you see how much damage you're causing depending on where you're shooting.
So our approach to the game is that we want it to feel really intuitive when you're playing. So a damage counter might be necessary, but I think there's a lot we can touch on before we do that. So a reason why you're looking for a damage counter is that there's not quite enough feedback in the game yet. Like, we want to do a lot of work, a lot of play testing, and improve the VFX in the game to give you more feedback for different attacks, improve the animation, differentiate the attacks more, and really just get that a lot tighter. So yeah, totally understand that complaint that it's quite hard to work out what you're doing. Like, you're really on your own, and we want the challenge of the game to not be, how do I play this, but more, how do I beat this particular level? How do I overcome this boss? Rather than just being stuck with, how do I actually control the character?
All right, thanks, Reese. That's all the judgment you need to absorb for the moment. We're going to send you back to the green room so we can confer with the judges.
Yeah, it was really good. Going into it, I was worried because, as was kind of discussed in there, the game is really hard and people do bounce off. We were thinking before this that there was a good chance that at least half the judges barely played the game because it's just so hard and so hard to understand at the start. A game like this, there are obvious questions of where this could go. Will it be super repetitive? What can you actually do with this? I think it went well though. I think I satisfied them with my answers.
Well, judges, what do we think about the Ballad of Sir Gatling? Pear?
It's really funny, when I first started playing, I was like, oh, Gatling gun as your main weapon, because usually in shooters, you got really responsive, fast, shotguns and pistols and rifles and everything is like instantaneous. And the Gatling gun is always the sort of reward that you get, that you have only for a short time because it overheats or runs out of ammo or it's taken away and too heavy to carry. But you get this kind of, you just unload and you cause this mass damage in this game, in usual games, right? And so it's got that spin up and it feels slow and sluggish.
I mean, that's just it. It's in the name of the game, Gatling. And that moment, as you described it, is generally that period of time in a shooter where you're the OP player. You've got the Gatling gun and no one can stop you. And you're just racking up the kills. The game starts there. And so they've got to realize they've got to escalate and ramp up. And if they're going to add more, whether it's the weird and the wonderful stuff, or weapon variety, or a way to pace that.
Yeah, for me, I'd be telling the developer, you need to every 2 minutes introduce a new modifier. Whether it's like weather effects, whether it's some sort of new enemy type, whether it's oil slicks on the ground, something that's gonna have to make you change your gameplay style.
Yeah, my comments were actually around polish to that point where the ones that hit just have all the polish nailed. They've got the progression figured out, you know what you're doing.
Yep.
And it's still weird, and that's what makes it fun and stick around.
Now it's time to check out our next finalist. It's easy to get hooked on fishing games, and this entry's scale is certainly alluring. Here is Kaiju Fishing.
Hi, I'm Zach. I am based out of NorCal, and I work at Mutant Entertainment Studios as an engineer, and I'm part of the Kaiju Fishing team. Kaiju Fishing is a spin on a fishing game leaning more into the adventure and exploration side of things. We're trying to implement a lot of action. In Kaiju Fishing, you as a player are going to explore a gorgeous world that we have set out for you and discover lots of unique and exciting creatures, building up to massive scale kaiju that you're going to have to overcome and conquer in order to progress through this adventure. Having your job as a hobby can be a hard balance because sometimes you get really sucked into what you're working on and can spend probably way too many hours working on that thing. We've definitely hit a lot of walls and a lot of, frustrating points in it. Specifically things like Rogue Jam and other people just seeing and being excited about what we're working on is definitely an encouragement to keep working on it. If younger me could see where I was today, competing on a show for a bunch of money and a publishing deal, he would be excited just getting into developing video games. That's not something I ever thought I would be doing. And so I think I would just be excited about where my career will take me.
As always, our judges have already had some time with Kaiju Fishing, but to find out even more about where the game is and where it's headed, here's Zach Sullivan of Mutant Entertainment Studios.
Hi.
Chris, mind letting me know what you think about Kaiju Fishing?
Zach, thank you for this submission. I was really excited when I saw it come through. It's great to see these really interesting creatures in the water mixed with a genre that is satisfying from a collection mechanic perspective. And that kind of leads me to my question. After I'd catch the kaiju, battling with them for long periods of time, got to put them in the aquarium. Could you talk a little bit more about the aquarium? Is there a plan to sort of expand how many kaiju you can put in there and what kind of interactions we might see in that?
The aquarium is one of my personal favorite features just because we kind of stumbled upon it. We have plans for an inventory system where players can kind of store their caught fish as well as items they may collect through quests or just exploration in the world. And they will be able to decorate and customize that feature and customize their aquarium to their own needs.
So for me, the point of feeling the experience, feeling the fight, feeling the fish on the hook, that's the piece for me that certainly was missing in the demo. The point of feeling the experience, feeling the fight, feeling the fish on the hook, that's the piece for me that certainly was missing in the demo. I know you can do it, but that's really a place I would look to invest heavily.
My question for you is around social mechanics. Fishing is always more fun with friends. What are your thoughts there?
So we currently don't have any plans for multiplayer with our game. We're really focused on trying to make it the best single player experience that we can for our players. However, we do have plans in place that will allow players to export out pictures of their fish or just moments that they can share with their friends on social media so that they can just kind of show off their big catches.
For me, it's about momentum and physics. So just really feeling like you're in the water. And I mean, when you're being dragged by a fish, you really want to feel like you're being dragged. And I want the waves to feel like they're impacting the boat in a really major way too. So I would think about different weather systems, different wave mechanics, all that playing into the fishing mechanics. And the other thing, dude, from a pitching point, you gotta have a big ass kaiju in the game if you're gonna show us a game called Kaiju Fishing. So
Gotcha.
I would just recommend that you nail that in the future.
Thank you.
All right, thanks so much, Zach. Sorry to put you back on ice, but we need a little more time to confer with our judges.
I think it went pretty good with the judges. They definitely had some questions that I knew that were going to be asked. There's more work we definitely have to put into this game. But overall, I'm feeling pretty happy with the responses.
So the truth about most kaiju movies is that the giant monsters don't actually get that much screen time. It's mostly people talking about the monsters that are off fighting somewhere, and it sounds like Kaiju Fishing is taking a similar approach where you don't actually get to do much of what the title says. Is that accurate, Archer?
I think that is definitely true. In the demo we played, and there's so many cool elements to it. They just haven't realized all those things yet.
A lot of the games we're seeing are obviously about the promise, right? Sometimes they're pieces of games, sometimes they're just tech demos or gameplay demos. This one, I do think we have to ding it a bit for not having that core kaiju element, but as Reggie said, the developer put on display fishing mechanics, the boat mechanics, the look of the game, the concept of questing, all of that is already there, which gives me confidence that, with the right budget and some time, we could be seeing a really cool title here.
I'm also focused on the collection mechanic. I mean, did anybody try to find a pack of Pokemon cards last summer? There's such a strong motivation to collect and capture something that's rare. I think the reality is that they've got something here, dare I say, that could spawn a franchise.
All right, well, we still have one more finalist in our WTF category, a game where you play as an alien who murders its enemies, absorbs their consciousness, and wears their skulls like cute little hats. So, WTF indeed. This is Zapling Bygone.
Hi, I'm Stevie. I'm the solo developer of Zapling Bygone, currently out of Eastbourne in the United Kingdom, and I'm here because I'm competing in Rogue Jam.
The name of the game I'm developing is Zapling Bygone. It is a 2D pixel art Metroidvania. You play as an alien hive mind who is looking for a cure to an illness that was created from within. And the way he does this is by killing enemies, absorbing the consciousness of the enemies, and uncovering the memories.
Since becoming a full-time indie dev, I pretty much stand or sit in my room. First thing I think about when I wake up, it's the last thing I think about when I go to sleep. I don't recommend it. It's probably not very healthy. Zapling Bygone, under the obvious and under the main story, it's all kind of thematically based on my own struggles with depression and with anxiety and all the issues that everyone has in their life. Being involved in Rogue Jam and this competition, it is quite enlightening when I give this kind of personal project to people in the industry who actually know what they're talking about. It's so personal to me that it's like giving them my baby and hoping they don't rip it apart. I really hope they do enjoy it though.
Joining us remotely from Eastbourne, England is Stevie Andrea of Nine Finger Games, the creator of Zapling Bygone. Welcome to Rogue Jam.
Hello.
Okay, Stevie, our panel of judges have all played Zapling Bygone, and I'm positive they have both feedback and questions for you. Judges, don't make me liar now.
To me, Metroidvanias are all about, starting with very little, seeing things that you want to do but can't do, and then unlocking things. And obviously you have the mechanic where you wear skulls, which is weird, by the way, and you get new powers. What would you say is kind of a great pivotal power in the game that you feel like where players are going to go, aha, is it the ability to crawl on walls, or what is it?
I think you're right. I think it's the ability to crawl on walls and later in the game ceilings. But that is the point in the game where it kind of deviates from the normal moveset that you'd expect from Metroidvania. And that's why it's the first ability you unlock.
Yeah, hey Stevie, great to have you here. For me, I'm really not concerned, but focused on depth. I want to know just how much game is actually here. Yeah, hey Stevie, great to have you here. For me, I'm really not concerned, but focused on depth. I want to know just how much game is actually here, because the fundamentals are all amazing. I love the controls. It couldn't be tighter. It really feels good. Everything from progression to puzzles to combat all feels really good to me. But how much is there? If you had to put a number on it, are we talking a few hours? Is this going to be a 6+ hour game? Where are you at right now?
Currently, you could probably complete the current state of Zapling Bygone in probably 2 to 3 hours. If you want to spend all your time exploring and trying to find all the side content and 100% it, it's probably up to maybe 6.
I love Metroidvanias. Rogue definitely loves Metroidvanias. My advice to you is around sort of a bit of the character's animation. I would have loved to have seen the skulls, each of the representative skulls beyond the character, to really give a little bit of differentiation as I played through the game. Or a turn of the head or something where you actually get to see the skull, because it's such a core element. And I was just so interested. I actually kept looking to see if I was missing it. So it's something that would be really cool for players, that not just the UI that shows the type of skull, but something that maybe represents it more on the character itself.
Can you talk a little bit about what are your inspirations? What is sort of creatively the thing that gets you excited, and how did that perhaps lead to something like Zapling Bygone?
There's a lot of elements in Zapling Bygone about depression, about different struggles that every human has at some point in their life. And I think Zapling Bygone is one of the ways that I like to express that. A lot of people don't like talking about depression, or don't like, in general, like almost admitting to having it. And it's like playing games, and I got this kind of from Celeste, where you can play a game about depression, or about at least struggling with depression, and it can help you because you know someone's made that game, and you know someone else might feel the same way you feel without having to explicitly go to someone who's like, hey, you have depression. It's a lot easier to play a game and be like, this is a thing. It's more accessible in that way.
Yeah, now that you say that, I actually, reflecting on playing the game, could feel that coming through. So I think you're doing it.
You know, for me, I hungered a little bit more on the progression aspect of it, right? And you know, a person who loves Metroidvania types of games, you know, I wanted to see maybe just a little bit more there. So I'd be interested in, as you add funding, as you continue to flesh this out, how you push in that area. But that's one for me that I hungered for just a little bit more.
Okay, that makes sense.
So similar to what we talked about earlier, I think the story here is the most unique part of this game. It's really cool. I wanted more of it, and I think doubling down on that, expanding on it, maybe considering having more than, I think you said 6 hours of gameplay, and how you could build it out, because it's this deep, cool world that I think you could do more with than just that. Like, I'm already engaged and intrigued, so I would think about that a little bit.
Okay, I'll definitely consider that. Thank you.
All right, thanks, Stevie. We're going to let bygone be bygone, so while we confer with our judges, we'll see you and the other devs in a bit for the big reveal.
And they all seem to really like the game, which is amazing. Definitely seeing some real industry professionals like your game is makes me step back a bit and be like, I'm actually doing something people like.
Well, judges, what did we think of Zapling Bygone?
Got in my head, right? That was what the part for me, because after I played it, I kept thinking about it, thinking about what the hell I just did. It's like, you know, a weird, you know, some sort of weird trick that was being played on me.
I don't know if I'm alone here, but I'm obsessed with Stevie. Like, his creative mind, just the way he talks. Sometimes you invest in a creator.
Yeah.
And he just has something there that just speaks to a perspective that we didn't see in any of the other games.
Yeah, I love this concept. Really cool, out there, just totally weird. I love Metroidvanias. I love pixel art. There's a lot that hits really hard for me. I think maybe the biggest challenge to overcome is the length.
Is the length a problem for anyone else?
It is from a length standpoint, but I'll put another point on the table. You know, in the WTF category, I don't think it had enough WTF, right? And what I mean by that is the skull mechanic is cool, but you really don't see it very much. The movement was pretty standard. It needs more. It needs more. More time to play, some other elements to it. I think it would benefit from just getting a little bit more out there.
Okay, well, judges, prepare your final decisions, because when we come back, Rogue CEO Matt Casamassina will be revealing the winner of Rogue Jam in the WTF category. Stay right there. You won't want to miss it. WTF for the win. Welcome back. Now is the moment we've all been waiting for. It's time to reveal the Rogue Jam competition winner for the most, I'm just going to say it, the most what the game, and award a $100,000 prize to its developers. Now, since Matt is officially the big boss at Rogue, he'll be speaking on behalf of the judges. Matt, have you reached a decision?
Wasn't easy. I think a couple friends turned into lifelong enemies, but we've done it.
All right, let's bring back our developers and get down to business. Developers, are you ready?
Yes, sir. Yeah, I'm ready.
Matt, the floor is yours.
Thanks, Damon. Okay, Reese, let's start with you, and welcome back. First of all, the Ballad of Sir Gatling definitely had us asking WTF, in a big way, which is obviously a good thing for this category. The characters and the linear bridge are unique, to say the least. We love the ambitious mashup of different games and styles. Some felt the controls were responsive, thought the gameplay offered a cool balance between shooting and melee, but others fumbled with mechanics, and the tutorial and onboarding just didn't feel as intuitive as they might have been. Ultimately, the game is definitely WTF times 100, but you might want to ask yourselves, WTF can you do to make Sir Gatling find its groove? Zach, Kaiju Fishing, we love the concept of Pokemon meets Pacific Rim at the fishing pole. And conceptually, I gotta say, I think we might have liked this one more than any other game in the entire competition. Has a ton of potential just based on that concept. but the mechanics aren't terribly deep just yet, and I think at this stage anyway, the game's lacking just a bit of character. The overall experience right now is a bit simple, and I think you'd probably agree that we could add a little bit more polish as well. Finally, Stevie. Zapling Bygone is another ambitious addition to the pantheon of retro-styled Metroidvania games. It does enough to set itself apart with this cool skull system where you're actually picking up these skulls and gaining the abilities of dead corpses throughout the planet, which is pretty crazy, by the way. The gloomy environments are odd, and there's a crazy cast of characters that invite exploration. The visuals, I would say, do need a bit of fine-tuning in terms of repetition. There's this sort of pattern fatigue that happens. Still, even in its current state, it's a ton of fun to play, and we're really excited about it. With all of that said, thank you for being here, but we got to pick one winner. And the winner for the Rogue Jam WTF award is Zapling Bygone.
Thank you. Yeah, I don't know what to say. I honestly don't.
Well, congratulations, man. The game, you deserved it. This is an awesome game. We all loved it. We all think it's WTF as hell. And Rogue is just over the moon to be working with you on this.
Congratulations, Stevie. You took a gamble on an idea and it paid off. What is next for Nine Figure Games and Zapling Bygone, and how will the prize money help your game?
Well, it's gonna change the game completely. It's all the stuff that I took away from the Kickstarter, simply so that the budget could be low. I can start thinking about re-adding that stuff and like making it from the game that it best it can be to the best it could be. And I'm really looking forward to working with Rogue Games as well.
Stevie, how does this win feel on a personal level, given that developing this game has also been sort of therapeutic for you?
I don't know how to feel. I feel like I'm gonna wake up tomorrow and then I'll have an accurate answer to that question. Currently, I'm kind of, I don't know. I'm in shock. I have a lot of stuff to think about, and I have a lot of things in my brain that I can't articulate very well. Can I add like one thing? The other devs, like, yeah, they look so good. Especially like, yeah, every single one of them, and like I know how hard it is to like market and develop a game, especially in really small teams.
Well, congratulations again, Stevie. A huge thank you to our judges and all the participating developers, Reese and Zach. And of course, a big thank you to everyone watching at home. I'm Damon Hatfield. See you next time for a very special episode of Rogue Jam. On the next episode, our judges will be choosing the best overall game, and the winner will not only be taking home $500,000 in prize money, but also a Rogue Games publishing deal to help get their game into your hands.
It's exactly what I want to play.
It's all come down to this. Tune in to IGN on Monday, May 9th to find out the best overall winner. Rogue Jam. It's anyone's game.